Baltimore finally sees a significant reduction in homicides in 2023. But what's the cause? Fox 45 News brings you team coverage as we hear from the mayor and Baltimore's top attorney on their differing strategies to curb violent crime. And we examine which approach could be making the bigger impact driving murders down. Then our next weather maker is set to bring snow to the region. We're breaking down how much we could see with the latest models and which areas could see rain.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We reduced violence in Baltimore in its largest drop ever.
Mayor Scott today is touting a drop in homicides and shootings, saying his crime-fighting strategies are responsible for the dip in violence we saw last year. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. The mayor says that decrease in violent crime proves his plans are working. Now, we have team coverage looking into the mayor's comments and statements. Rebecca Pryor was at his news conference today. Rebecca?
Mary and Kai, there is no debating homicides and non-fatal shootings are down significantly last year compared to years past. But tonight, debate over who's responsible for that progress and whether or not it could have come sooner continues.
I made it very clear from the beginning of my administration that public safety was our #1 focus.
Mayor Brandon Scott's long-awaited campaign promise to cut the city's historically high homicides below 300 finally coming to fruition in 2023.
Homicides were down 20% and non-fatal shootings were down 6.8%. That reduction was the largest single-year reduction that Baltimore City has ever seen.
An accomplishment arriving 2 years after his previously pledged deadline.
I will aim to reduce homicides by 15% each year in my term, getting us below 300 homicides in my first year.
Instead, in his first year as mayor, annual homicides climbing to 338 lives lost and remaining high at 330 for 2022 before dropping to 263 in 2023.
I knew deep in my heart that we needed to do something different. And so we did something different.
Doubling down on a holistic approach to crime. Mayor Scott crediting the programs implemented under the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement for much of the success.
We set forth an ambitious, comprehensive violence prevention plan to address violence in our communities as a public health issue.
While others touting a tough on crime approach from 2023's new city state's attorney in partnership with federal agencies.
With the U.S. Attorney's Office, I told you we do a lot of work together. We're holding some violent offenders accountable.
I do think he's trying to take credit for an accomplishment that is not majorly his.
According to political analyst Richard Vatz, crime reductions could have come much sooner if Mayor Scott would have held former city state's attorney Marilyn Mosby accountable for her controversial no prosecution policies of several low-level offenses.
He appears to genuinely want to reduce violence, but he doesn't appear to ever be willing to take courageous steps, one of which would be when he had an totally irresponsible state's attorney, he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't say anything even half critical of her until she's out of office.
A step Mayor Scott is still unwilling to make.
In hindsight, do you think that your decision to not call out Marilyn Mosby's selective prosecution policies contributed to the crime problem and us not seeing these crime reductions sooner?
I think that as we said before, to blame one person or give one person the credit is a false narrative. We did the work. And I remember specifically you and others from your station asking me consistently, when is this 15% reduction going to happen? When is the plan that you guys put forth going to actually work? And now it's working and you want us to look back. We're looking forward.
But in terms of accountability and could we have gotten here sooner, do you think it would have helped to call out those selective prosecution policies?
I don't think you hear me very clearly. I don't do performative stuff. That's not me. I focus on the work.
Well, the question wasn't, do you want it to go back? The question was, should she have been called out earlier? And he often avoids that question because he is very, very resolute in not accepting any criticism of his policies. He could have had a change in Baltimore's situation a long time ago.
Now, no one person or city agency can take all of the credit for the city's recent reduction in crime, but Vatz says he does believe that the Bates administration is the main contributing factor here. In Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
And Rebecca, with that in mind, as homicides fall, we do know juvenile crime is climbing in the city. You also pressed the mayor on whether a change in leadership is needed within the Department of Juvenile Services. What did the mayor say about that?
Yeah, well, just like he wouldn't necessarily talk directly about Marilyn Mosby's leadership, he also wouldn't speak directly to DJS's Vincent Schiraldi, who has faced heavy criticism over the last year for some of his administrative policies. Take a listen to what the mayor had to say.
In your opinion, do you think that the head of DJS, Vincent Schiraldi's policies, are helping or hurting the crime fight here in Baltimore City?
I've stated my position on this probably about 2 billion times. This is also not about one individual. And this is where I'll go a little deeper. You've heard me say for multiple years that the system of juvenile justice in this state needs to be reimagined. That is when Mr. Schiraldi was in New York, right? This is about a system that needs to be changed.
So again, Mayor Scott admitting that a change does need to be made within DJS, but when it comes to specifics and leadership, he is not willing to comment. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. Mayor Scott also stressed that homicides are down more than 15% from when he entered office. That number is a milestone for the mayor. He says it shows he's making good on a promise he made back when he first entered office.
And I remember specifically you and others from your station telling us, asking me consistently, when is this 15% reduction going to happen? When is the plan that you guys put forth going to actually work? And now it's working, and you want us to look back.
During his mayoral campaign, the mayor promised his administration would decrease homicides by 15% each year if he was elected. In 2021, his first full year in office, there were 338 homicides. If he delivered on this promise, Baltimore would have seen 287 people killed in 2022 and 244 people killed in 2023. 330 people were killed in 2022, and last year, 263 people were killed in Baltimore. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Mayor Scott's crime-fighting strategy has made your neighborhood safer? That poll just opened. To make your voice heard, go to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
This graph shows homicide trends from January of 2020 through October of 2023. You'll notice the first 2 summers of the Scott administration saw actually a spike in murders, which helped drive the number of homicides over 300 each of these years. However, that didn't happen in the summer of 2023. In August of 2022, Maryland's U.S. Attorney Eric Barron announced his so-called Al Capone style of prosecution, which he says uses a range of laws to prosecute repeat violent offenders and keep them off the street.
This Al Capone model of prosecution is designed to take violent people off the streets by any appropriate legal means necessary.
And then 1 year ago, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates took office. In his inaugural speech, he told the city he would be tough on crime and had a strong message for any potential criminals.
So I say to you, is thinking about grabbing your illegal handgun and going on the streets of Baltimore City, grab your toothbrush as well, because you're going to need it.
Then we see another drop around July of 2023. It was around that time that Eric Barron and Ivan Bates announced a few big wins. In the span of just a few days, the 2 offices announced 8 defendants pleaded guilty, 2 who were sentenced for gun crimes. All of them were repeat violent offenders. Barron saying the results of their partnership is clear.
Homicides are down 25%, and non-fatal shootings are down 6.5%. And we think it's clear, and the data demonstrates that it's because we're working as a team. We're working collaboratively.
Ivan Bates was not at the news conference today, but he spoke one-on-one with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost about Baltimore's crime crisis.
There's a news conference happening down the street right now inside City Hall talking about the 2024 crime plan for Baltimore City. You're not there. How's that partnership?
Well, it's a good partnership. I'm not there. I had a number of other things that I had on my schedule. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. And but it has been a partnership.
Bates touted his partnership with federal agencies as part of the effort to curb homicides in the city.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost brings us that part of the story right now. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, it's been 1 year since City State's Attorney Ivan Bates assumed this role. He says it's been challenging and difficult, but he says he's grateful for the partnership that he has with various federal agencies, as well as the U.S. Attorney for Maryland, Eric Barron. Now, Bates says that he and Barron have been friends for several years, and he wants to continue working together into 2024, especially when it comes to going after illegal guns in the streets of Baltimore.
If the four of us aren't in lockstep, we have problems. So we have to be with those partners. At least once a month, we're going to sit down in our office, going to see who we can take and who may stay. A lot of the things that they're working on, if the individuals they may not all be federal, but we're here to take them on the state side. To have individuals out there committing the crime, knowing that the U.S. Attorney's Office is there with us, has helped greatly.
Now, tomorrow, Bates will be with Barron for a different news conference with various federal law enforcement agencies talking about this partnership moving forward and continuing to grow into this next year. But one person won't be there. Why is it so important to stand in lockstep with the federal partners to make this announcement?
Well, it's important to stand with all our partners. And
the mayor's not there tomorrow.
No, I understand. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. attorneys can only invite non-elected officials unless I'm invited because I specifically fight crime in reference to with the U.S. attorney. We have to be on that team. Those are the ones that we're doing the heavy lifting with.
And Mackenzie, State's Attorney Bates is pushing lawmakers to address some aspects of juvenile crime, too, during session. Did he say anything about how that effort is going?
Yeah, he said one of the biggest issues for Bates heading into this next legislative session really centers around the process that's taking place within the Department of Juvenile Services, specifically the intake process. And we've heard from various people involved in this process, including the deputy chief prosecutor in the juvenile division in the city state's attorney's office, talking about how there are not attorneys making some of these decisions about what cases need to move forward. And that's something Bates says that he believes that needs to change.
Almost 33% of those were individuals based on our research and analysis that says these are cases that should have gone to a juvenile magistrate, and DJS should not have been allowed to make the call. That's exactly why I've been yelling, screaming, tweak this law and just say DJS does not have a say, but yet let's give it straight to the judge automatically with certain offenses.
Now, we also talked about the current homicide and non-fatal shooting statistics. Hear what the city state's attorney has to say about that coming up in our next hour. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. This year's legislative session starts 1 week from today, and crime is expected to be a central focus in Annapolis, especially juvenile crime. A battle is brewing over changes to the state's juvenile crime laws. Critics have argued these laws keep police from doing their jobs, and now the president of the Maryland Police Union is joining the list of those expressing concern.
What is happening with that is it stops that juvenile from getting the services they need because you don't know what problem they actually have if you can't talk to them, but it also stops the victims from getting justice.
Now, police aren't the only ones expressing concern over the current laws. We've heard from more than a dozen top prosecutors across Maryland calling for changes to the juvenile justice system. They say current laws leave their hands tied and allow young people to act without fear of consequences.
The Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi is at the center of some of the complaints surrounding the juvenile justice system. During a town hall last month, residents spoke out about problems involving DJS and Schiraldi's performance.
I think there's a lot more accountability he needs to answer to. I think Schiraldi's got a lot of gaps in what his data presents.
When it comes to hearing from DJS specifically, what do you want to hear from the secretary about what's going on?
His resignation. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but I just don't think he gets it.
At a separate public safety town hall, Schiraldi himself got into a heated back and forth with an assistant state's attorney who says DJS isn't being fully transparent about its data, showing how it tracks the children in its custody.
Secretary Schiraldi, I would really love to see your data.
Absolutely.
Because, and this is from 22.
Yeah, and you're going to see the next one in less than a month. I'd like to see some data from you, though. I'm not really hearing too much data from your office.
Schiraldi is also facing pushback on some of his views about the prison system. He says people shouldn't be sentenced to adult prisons until age 25, since he says scientists believe their brains aren't fully developed. And on a Harvard University panel, Schiraldi said parole and probation should be eliminated, arguing the systems don't deter people from crime and don't rehabilitate offenders. If you feel your juvenile crime concerns aren't being heard, reach out to your lawmakers. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful voices in Annapolis. Their phone numbers and email addresses right there on your screen.
Public safety is at the forefront in Philadelphia, where newly sworn-in Mayor Sherelle Parker is laying out her 100-day plan to get the city back on track. That includes declaring a state of emergency.
I'm also going to declare a public safety emergency. I am fully committed to ending this sense of lawlessness and bringing order back to our city and a sense of lawfulness. In lawlessness, bring order back and a sense of lawfulness right here in our city.
Coming up at 4:30, Fox 45's Vincent Hill is breaking down her hardline approach and how it compares to Mayor Brandon Scott's crime policies.
Well, our Fox 45 weather team tracking a winter storm moving into our region this weekend and the potential for the first significant snowfall in 2 years. You're taking a look at our future scan, which shows the system coming in from the west. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax joins us now with a look ahead at what you should be expecting this weekend. Jasmine?
Thanks, Mary. We are keeping close watch on that system that could bring snow to parts of the state, but even before that happens this weekend, there is the chance for a few flurries overnight and into early tomorrow morning. We also are tracking this cold front that's going to clip the state, bringing in cooler air ahead of that next weather maker. So you'll notice that over the next few days, temperatures slowly start to decline as we get ready for the chance for rain and snow. Tomorrow, we're looking at temperatures in the mid-40s, cooler than today, and the numbers continue to fall, the low 40s on Friday, and we stay in the low 40s on Saturday. Now, some areas of the state will only be seeing rain, while others have a better chance of seeing snow, and then some looking at a rain and snow mix. I'll let you know where to expect rain versus snow coming up in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. The Maryland State Highway Administration is sending out warnings. If you're driving over the weekend, take extra caution, drive slowly, and make sure you're braking early. If your vehicle is in trouble, you can dial 77 to contact the state or MDTA police for assistance.
And stay with Fox 45 News for the very latest as this next weather maker moves through our area. Our team of meteorologists will be tracking the storm all weekend long, letting you know what you need to be prepared for.
And anytime severe weather hits, you can stay ahead of the storm with Fox 45's Weather Authority app. Search for WBFF in your app store.
A new mayor in Philadelphia declaring a state of emergency to combat crime, comparing her approach to stopping violence with Mayor Scott's crime strategy.
A guilty plea in the crash that killed 6 construction workers on the Baltimore Beltway last year. The punishment one suspect could face as another waits for her day in court.
For the first time in 2 years, a snowstorm is headed toward Baltimore. This is a look at our weather radar. Things are clear now over our region, but in just a couple of days, we will be seeing a winter storm move into our area. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax back now with a look ahead. Jasmine, what should we expect? And I guess the question is when?
Thanks, Mary. Well, the big day is coming on Saturday. Until then, a fairly quiet forecast. So if you have any last-minute preparations that you want to make, you have a couple days still to get those done. Today, we've been pretty mild as we enjoy a mostly quiet pattern. 47 with mostly cloudy skies over Baltimore, and around the state, temperatures mainly in the 40s. Not too bad for this time, and we're still remaining nice and dry around our state. However, we do have the chance for a couple of isolated flurries tonight into the morning. We're also tracking a cold front that will pass over the region, and that's going to usher in some cooler temperatures. So tonight we stay dry as our temperatures drop to the 20s and 30s. Then by the afternoon, a slight drop in numbers. 46 for the high, then 42 on Friday, and we get ready for that weather maker on Saturday. Temperatures will be around 40, and that's why we have that chance for a rain and snow mix where we have those temperatures above freezing, a better chance for rain, and where we have those temperatures below freezing, a better chance for snow. So breaking it down on the future scan, we'll stay mostly dry overnight. Tomorrow morning, again, the chance for a few flurries. Most of us will wake up to cloudy skies. The best chance for snow will be in western Maryland. Then by the afternoon, a few breaks in the clouds will clear out overnight and start with plenty of sunshine on Friday morning. Then more clouds move in as high pressure leaves our region. We'll have a low pressure system begin to approach our region on Saturday, and that's what's going to lead to those snow showers and rain showers. So we wake up in the morning to a couple of isolated flurries, but it's the afternoon when we start to see those precipitation chances increase. This is the latest run from the American model, and it does have the Baltimore area and spots to the north and west looking at snow, but notice by the night that does quickly taper. We could be left with a couple of isolated flurries for northern parts of the state and also western Maryland, but later in the day, mostly dry, and will stay that way as we get started for the upcoming work week. It's looking much drier on Monday. Now we'll have another weather maker on Tuesday. That's going to bring rain showers with temperatures staying well above freezing. Then the chance for a few early showers as we continue the week. Temperatures tonight fall to 35 with just a few passing clouds. Then tomorrow 46 for another mild day. 42 for the high on Friday. Then make sure that you are staying weather alert over the weekend as we get ready for rain and snow. It's still a little early to say just how much we'll see, so make sure you're following along for updates. We start to see temperatures rise as we head through Tuesday. That's when we have rain followed by more showers on Wednesday. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Coming up after the break, the Baltimore Ravens looking ahead to a big matchup this weekend against the Steelers, the impact the winning season could have on Charm City. Plus, efforts continue to get all light rail shuttles up and running again after being suspended, the actual trains. An update on the repairs and how you can track the progress. A live look at M&T Bank Stadium tonight, where in just 3 weeks, the Baltimore Ravens will host their first playoff game of the year. Fans across the city couldn't be more excited about the team's success this season. It has been so fun to watch. The Ravens' success on the field is not just a promising sign for their postseason hopes. Megan Gillen speaks to a lifelong Baltimore resident who says the team is helping people in the city make it through some tough times.
We begin a new year in Baltimore with the good and the bad. While the city is grappling with a juvenile crime crisis, residents are also celebrating a dominant Ravens team, bringing playoffs and excitement back to Charm City. Lifelong Baltimore resident Pastor P.M. Smith says this bit of good news can make a difference.
But for the first time in a couple of years, we have playoffs back here in Charm City. What does that do to a city? You know, instilling a little hope, at least, and some good news?
Well, some good news,
it's just
some
football,
fun. But you need that kind of enthusiasm for a city and to attract folk. And I commend the Ravens. They've had a great season. They may be the Super Bowl champions.
Tickets for the Ravens playoff run are about to go on sale starting this Friday at 10 a.m. Fans will be able to get tickets for the divisional round. That game will be taking place on either the 20th or 21st of this month. To get your tickets, you can head to baltimoreravens.com/playoff tickets. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Well, a new mayor in Philadelphia and Baltimore Mayor Scott taking different approaches to the violent crime crisis in their cities, taking a closer look at both plans. One of the drivers responsible for last year's deadly Beltway crash enters a guilty plea, the punishment he could face for his part in taking the lives of 6 construction workers.
What you hear from us is not a celebratory tone, right? And I know we're out detectives and folks will be working on that issue, but we have to continue to work.
I'm also going to declare a public safety emergency. We are going to expeditiously get every available resource into neighborhoods, listen, struggling from scourges of crime, gun violence, drugs, and addiction.
Two mayors, two messages on violent crime in their cities. The new mayor of Philadelphia, Sherrell Parker, promises to declare a state of emergency, while in Baltimore, Mayor Brandon Scott touts a drop in violent crime last year, attributing it to, in part, his holistic policies. Well, tonight we're looking into the differences in their rhetoric and also their planned approaches to tackling the crime crisis in their respective cities.
That's right. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us live now with what the city leaders had to say to their constituents in each of these cities this week. Vincent?
Yeah, Mayor Kai, she made history becoming the first female mayor of Philadelphia, and now the 100th mayor has a 100-day plan to tackle crime. Now, last year, Philadelphia saw 409 homicides. Even though it was 20% less, it's still the fourth year straight of 400 or more homicides, and the city ended with more than 3,000 non-fatal shootings and a 72% increase in auto thefts. Mayor Parker says she plans to involve putting more officers on the street, going after quality of life crimes like open air drug markets and dirt bikes, and making a very strong and sound declaration.
I'm also going to declare a public safety emergency. Yes, I am. But I want you to know everybody is not going to be happy when we make some of these decisions. We're going to make our city safe for the people who live here, who work here, and who come into our city from the suburbs and from across the country and from across the world.
And Mayor Parker went on to say that she's fully committed to ending lawlessness in her city and restoring lawfulness. Kai and Mary?
And Vincent, Mayor Parker isn't the only mayor to declare a state of emergency. I know we saw D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser doing the same thing back in November. At that time, Mayor Scott said it wasn't needed in Baltimore. We asked him about it, but some are disagreeing with that.
Yeah, that's right. So two candidates, Bob Wallace and former Mayor Sheila Dixon, say that was the wrong move by Mayor Brandon Scott. Take a listen.
He has to put himself in the shoes of the people, and how do they feel? And if you talk to them, they will tell you we're in a crisis situation.
It's gotten out of control, and we've waited so long before we started dealing with this sooner, which we should have when we saw a trend, when we saw 5 cars being stolen or 5 carjacks.
And tonight at 10, I'll have more of what former Mayor Sheila Dixon had to say on the state of emergency in Philadelphia and if that's needed here in Baltimore. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. A Safe Streets worker was back in court today facing ammunition charges. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is live right now with why the case is now dismissed. Mackenzie?
Yeah, guys, so David Caldwell was the site supervisor at the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location. Federal agents showed up at Caldwell's home to execute a search warrant the same day they showed up at the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location back in October to execute a search warrant. From there, a state-level ammunition charge was filed against Caldwell at the time, and he was scheduled to go to trial back in November. But at the time, the federal search warrant was still sealed. Now it turns out that search warrant remains sealed, and without it, the case cannot move forward. Earlier today, I asked City State's Attorney Ivan Bates about the case. He tells me it's still an ongoing investigation and declined to comment further. As of right now, it's unclear what the status will be of the Safe Streets location moving forward.
Mackenzie, is Mr. Caldwell still working for Safe Streets?
That is a question that I asked LifeBridge Health, which is the nonprofit that manages the Safe Streets location. When the charge was first filed, LifeBridge placed Caldwell on unpaid leave while the case played out. But now they tell me they are still reviewing the employment status of Mr. Caldwell, so it's unclear if he will end up rejoining the Safe Streets program. After the FBI showed up and executed the search warrant at the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site, LifeBridge Health closed temporarily the location. They tell me right now it is still inactive and it's unclear when it will reopen. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. For our full coverage on Safe Streets investigations and our years-long effort to learn more about the program, head to foxbaltimore.com. An influx of money is coming to the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office. State's Attorney Ivan Bates says the governor has agreed to provide the office roughly $800,000 this year and next year to make what Bates says are critical staffing and technology upgrades, speeding up the body camera footage review process as well.
This way, it's not on a lawyer doing it the entire time period, because the lawyer has so many cases. My prosecutors, we only had, I think, 3 or 4 people that were doing it. And there are 2,300 officers, so we are severely understaffed. So we needed to make sure that we just were able to be staffed so that we're not losing prosecutors who then look at another jurisdiction that may pay a little bit more money but gives them less work. They're going to go there.
Well, Bates says the increased funding processes that currently take prosecutors dozens of hours will be able to be completed now in a fraction of time with these additional resources.
New developments in the deadly Beltway crash that killed 6 construction workers last year. One of the drivers, Malachi Brown, has pleaded guilty to 6 counts of vehicular manslaughter. Take a look on the left side of your screen, a highway camera capturing the crash. In the left lane, you can see the black sedan and a silver car collide. We have stopped the footage just before the black car flips over the median, killing those 6 workers. Now, Fox 45's Amy Simpson has more on the plea and the other driver also facing charges in this crash. Amy?
Yes, Mary, Brown, just one of the 2 drivers involved in this tragic crash that happened last spring. Prosecutors said Brown was driving 122 miles per hour on the Beltway last March. The tragedy happened last March 22nd. Traffic cameras capturing the moment 2 cars clipped on 695. Sending one car between Jersey walls and into a work zone, killing 6 construction workers on the job. Today, the Baltimore County State's Attorney's Office says one of those drivers, 20-year-old Malachi Brown, pleaded guilty to 6 counts of automobile manslaughter.
Man, my brother innocent. He's innocent.
Brown's family visibly emotional after an initial court hearing last summer. Now, prosecutors say they'll recommend 10 years for each of Brown's 6 counts of manslaughter, totaling a possible 60 years. But prosecutors also saying they'll recommend most of it be suspended, with just 18 months to serve behind bars. No driving during 3 years of supervised probation and 40 hours of community service.
Is literally the only person in this entire tragedy who has accepted any level of responsibility for the death of 6 innocent people at this point. There are corporations and companies and individuals who are stepping back and not accepting responsibility.
Among the 6 people killed that day, Sybil DiMaggio, a wife and mother of 2. Attorneys for DiMaggio's family looking for more answers.
The remaining question is, why was there a 156-foot gap that was allowed to remain open at this construction site that allowed and enabled this accident to take place?
And closure.
I wish I could say that this brought some level of peace to her family, but I think it's just the beginning in terms of accepting responsibility for what happened.
Meanwhile, the second driver accused in the fatal crash, 55-year-old Lisa Lee, faces 28 charges, including accusations she was under the influence at the time of the crash. Prosecutors say she, too, was driving more than 120 miles per hour on 695 that day. Last summer, a defense attorney revealed Lee suffered multiple shoulder fractures and had 4 fingers amputated after the fatal crash.
She was very remorseful. She has to live with this day in, day out, and she has physical permanent scars from this.
The Randallstown woman is scheduled for trial in April. That defense attorney appeared to point to the faults of the other driver involved last March.
A simple lane change, and even if there was weaving or speeding, it was the speed that contributed to this accident. But for a car going 100 and whatever in the left lane, there might not have been this accident.
Now, Brown, who pleaded guilty to those 6 counts of manslaughter today, will be sentenced in front of a judge in March. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Well, University of Maryland Upper Chesapeake Health is celebrating the opening of a new medical center in Aberdeen. The Aberdeen campus includes an emergency department with expanded observation care, a helipad for air transfers for patients who need critical care, and a behavioral health pavilion providing both inpatient and outpatient care. It also has a health and wellness center, which opened in late 2023, which offers a range of clinical services, including primary care, along with other specialized care units.
After services were suspended for 2 weeks in December, light rail services are back in service after the department called what they said were smoke incidents. But the video seen here clearly shows some kind of explosion followed by smoke and fire. As a result, 53 cars were pulled, inspected, and now most are repaired. Today on Fox 45 Morning News, Holly Arnold with the MTA joined us to provide an update.
We had a smoke incident, and we discovered that there was the potential for punctured conduit throughout the fleet. Okay. So we made the decision out of an abundance of caution, really, just to pull the fleet, inspect and repair all the vehicles. And so that is still an ongoing process. As of this morning, we have 27 vehicles that have been fully repaired and are ready to go back in service.
The MTA currently has a list on its website showing all of the cars, where they are, which ones are being repaired, and the dates when they received safety inspections.
Howard County student who says she was attacked on her way to school now has a safe ride to class. Jada is a 10th grade student at Wild Lake High School in Columbia. She's one of roughly 3,500 Howard County students who lost access to a school bus this year after the school system increased the distance students must live from school to receive one. But in late November, Jada and her friend were on their way to school at 7:30 in the morning, and instead of walking, they decided to take public transit when, according to police, a man attacked them. Jada's grandmother made an emotional plea for help, and just weeks after Project Baltimore shared her story, the school system gave Jada access to a school bus.
It took a crisis to have a bus, or otherwise she wouldn't have been on no bus, and I wanted her on the bus.
Tonight at 10, this grandmother's message to other Howard County parents still fighting to get their children a school bus.
House Republicans give the green light for impeachment proceedings against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at their case coming up.
And it's pretty quiet right now around the region, but we have the chance for snow and rain this weekend as we get ready for our first big winter storm of the year. I'll let you know what you can expect this weekend coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
The flow of migrants to our southern border isn't letting up, a trend that led to record after record being broken in 2023 in terms of the numbers of people, many fleeing poverty and violence in their home countries. Well, now Republican leaders in Congress have given the green light to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security over the matter, with the first hearing scheduled for next week. National correspondent Christine Frizzell has the story.
The new normal at the southern border has generated deep criticism on Capitol Hill, in particular of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
You can honorably resign, or we are going to impeach you.
That threat now a reality. The House of Representatives moving forward with a formal effort to impeach him for misusing taxpayer dollars and refusing to enforce the laws.
He's derelict in his duty. He's broken the laws of the United States that have passed Congress. He's lied to Congress. This guy needs to go.
DHS calls the effort a distraction with no valid basis to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. Democrats and President Biden accusing Republicans of standing in the way of fixing the broken immigration system. Mayorkas himself insisting he's been hard at work with a bipartisan group in the Senate to try to secure new technology, additional border agents, and asylum officers.
The fact that people can stay here for 6 years before their asylum case is adjudicated is a powerful example of how broken our immigration system is and has been for so long.
And it's not just Congress and the White House at odds. The Supreme Court has now been asked to intervene after a lower court blocked the Biden administration from removing razor wire fencing installed by state officials in Texas to try to deter illegal crossings. The wire prevents border agents from reaching migrants who have already crossed into the country, according to the White House. While critics say Texas Governor Greg Abbott installed it because the federal government was failing in its duty to secure the border.
It's unconscionable to think that right now, as Governor Abbott is trying to push back and reduce the cartel's ability to push drugs, criminals, national security threats into his state, we have the federal government that's actually trying to assist the cartels with continuing their operation.
An operation showing no signs of slowing down. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Hey, we've been telling you the winter is coming to Baltimore this weekend. On the left side of your screen, you're taking a live look at our weather radar, which shows that system coming in from the west. And on the right side, the conditions at the Inner Harbor. Trust us, they're there. There they are, right there. Beautiful day outside today, not bad at all. And things are going to get a little nicer up until that storm hits us this weekend. Here's meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with more on what you need to know. Hi, Jasmine.
Hey, Kai. We are keeping close watch on conditions. We're tracking a low pressure system that's going to move up the coast, and that's what's going to lead to the snow and the rain for some on Saturday. Until then, a mostly dry forecast. 47 currently with mostly cloudy skies over Baltimore and around the state. Most of us are in the 40s. We've got the 30s in western Maryland, but it's nice and dry today. That could change overnight as we get ready for the chance for a few snow flurries. They'd be very isolated, very light, and most will be waking up to dry weather. But something to keep in mind as we head into the night, our temperatures will drop to the 30s for a cold one. Then high temperatures tomorrow only reaching the mid-40s. We're looking at the low 40s on Friday and Saturday as we get ready for that next weather maker, which will lead to rain and snow across the region. Just to break down the timing on the future scan, we'll stay dry tonight. Again, we have that chance for a few flurries. The best chance will be for western Maryland. We're starting off with cloudy skies around daybreak. Then we'll have some breaks in the clouds by the afternoon. We'll clear out overnight and wake up to plenty of sunshine on Friday morning. Clouds move in by the afternoon as we get ready for that weather maker. We'll start with a few flurries on Saturday morning, but it's the afternoon when we really start to see the rain and snow across the state. We're mainly talking snow for areas north and west of Baltimore, and then south and east we have the best chance for rain, and that's where we'll see some higher temperatures staying above freezing. Now, there's still a very tight gradient on where we'll see that rain and snow transition, so make sure that you are following along for the latest updates and also for those totals as well. As we continue into Sunday morning, the chance for a couple of lingering snow showers, especially for northern parts of the state along with western Maryland. As we head into the night, we start to dry out, and it's looking much quieter on Monday. But we'll have another weather maker on Tuesday, and that's going to lead to rain, followed by a couple of spotty showers to start the day on Wednesday. 35 for the low temperature. Then tomorrow we're talking highs around 46 with a mix of sunshine and clouds. After that, 42 on Friday. Then make sure that you are staying weather alert and have multiple ways of receiving any alerts issued on Saturday and Sunday as we get ready for that winter weather maker. 45 for the high on Monday. Then we're looking at the 50s with rain on Tuesday, followed by a few showers with highs in the mid-50s on Wednesday. Back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Watch Fox 45 News for the very latest as this winter weather maker moves into the area. Our team of meteorologists will be tracking the storm all weekend long and letting you know what you need to know to be ready. And anytime severe weather hits, you can stay ahead of the storm with the Fox 45 Weather Authority app. Search WBFF in your app store. Coming up at 5 o'clock, Mayor Brandon Scott holds a public safety news conference this afternoon. Fox 45 News is pressing him on how he plans to make 2024 safer for residents. But first, old or rundown workout equipment can be a major eyesore in your home. Consumer Reports is providing some hassle-free options to get rid of it. All right, here's a question for you. One of those treadmills in the house that serves as an expensive coat rack. We had one of those situations, or one that has run its life cycle. It's tough to figure out what to do with that older, unwanted workout equipment. Tom Rogers brings us some of Consumer Reports' ideas.
For more than 20 years, fitness coach David Poland helps people achieve their goals.
Having the consistency and the discipline every day to be able to reach those long-term goals by having short-term victories is ultimately how you're going to get there.
But if you have a machine that you're just not into, don't break a sweat about getting rid of it.
If the equipment is in good shape, potentially you could sell it online or someone locally, or obviously you could always donate the equipment to somebody that might use it.
Check with pre-owned sports stores like Play It Again Sports and organizations such as Habitat for Humanity and their Restores, the Salvation Army, or local schools and community centers to find out if they will take used exercise equipment. You can also sell those items online on websites like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace.
If the manufacturer doesn't have a recycling program, contact your city or municipality to see if there's a recycling program for exercise equipment. If not, some cities do offer bulk trash pickup, and you may need to contact a junk removal company that will pick it up for a fee.
Because workout equipment is an investment, Consumer Reports puts treadmills, ellipticals, and rowing machines through rigorous tests so you can buy the right one for your family. Here are some top contenders. The Peloton treadmill. It's a good treadmill and the best if you use it with its subscription. The Soul E95S elliptical earned top scores in Hydro Rower. Was also one of their favorites. Poland says workouts should be fun.
Whether it's, you're working in home or at a gym, find something that is going to work out long term for you, something you enjoy doing, something you want to do on a regular basis.
Before buying, look at the warranty and service options that are offered. Consumer Reports says many treadmills have years of coverage on their parts and a lifetime warranties for the frame and motor. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates celebrates 1 year in office, the efforts to make the city safer, and the partnerships he wants to continue. This year's legislative session begins a week from today. The issues that are on the minds of lawmakers as they get ready to gather in Annapolis.
For you. Well, Baltimore hitting a major milestone with less than 300 homicides in the city last year. Why some say Mayor Scott shouldn't be taking sole credit for the accomplishment.
Also, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates is speaking out on Baltimore's crime crisis. We take a look at his first year on the job and the partnerships he says have helped reduce crime.
And this weekend, we are getting ready for snow. I'll let you know where to expect the snow versus rain coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
We set forth an ambitious, comprehensive violence prevention plan to address violence in our communities as a public health issue And while it took us more than a year to achieve that initial goal, we're finally seeing those efforts paying off and saving lives.
Mayor Brandon Scott touts a drop in homicides and shootings today, saying his crime-fighting strategies are the reason Baltimore saw fewer than 300 people killed last year. Good evening. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bala. Thank you so much for staying with us. The mayor saying that decrease in violent crime proves his plans are working.
We have team coverage tonight looking into Mayor Scott's statements, as well as those from City State's Attorney Ivan Bates. Let's begin with Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor. Rebecca?
Kai and Mary, there's no debating that in the last year, homicides and non-fatal shootings have fallen significantly compared to years past. But tonight, debate remains over who's responsible for these recent reductions. Now, keep in mind that the goal to finally reduce homicides below 300 for the first time in 9 years in Baltimore City comes 2 years after Mayor Scott promised he'd get the job done when running for office. The mayor now credits his office's holistic approach to crime for much of the success. Meanwhile, others are touting tough on crime approaches coming from Baltimore City's new City State's Attorney, who took office at the start of last year. According to political analyst Richard Fatz, the mayor needed to do more in his first 2 years in office to be able to claim responsibility for the recent reduction in crime.
He appears to genuinely want to reduce violence, but he doesn't appear to ever be willing to take courageous steps, one of which would be when he had an totally irresponsible state's attorney, he wouldn't say anything. He wouldn't say anything even half critical of her until she's out of office.
And that's a step that Mayor Scott is still unwilling to take. During today's press conference, I pressed Mayor Scott on if he would do things differently, knowing what he knows now about what it took to get crime under control. Take a listen to what I had to say.
In hindsight, do you think that your decision to not call out Marilyn Mosby's selective prosecution policies contributed to the crime problem and us not seeing these crime reductions sooner?
I think that as we said before, to blame one person or give one person the credit is a false narrative. We did the work. And I remember specifically you and others from your station asking me consistently, when is this 15% reduction going to happen? When is the plan that you guys put forth going to actually work? Now it's working, and you want us to look back. We're looking forward.
But in terms of accountability, and could we have gotten here sooner, do you think it would have helped to call out those selective prosecution policies?
I don't think you hear me very clearly. I don't do performative stuff. That's not me. I focus on the work.
Now, no one person or city agency can take all of the credit for the city's recent reduction in crime, but Vatz is among the many now who are saying that the Bates administration was the main contributing factor here. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. During his mayoral campaign, the mayor promised his administration would decrease homicides by 15% each year he was in office. In 2021, his first full year in office, there were 338 homicides. If he delivered on his promise, we would have seen 287 in 2022 and 244 in 2023. Instead, 330 people were killed in 2022, and last year, Baltimore saw 263 homicides. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Mayor Scott's crime-fighting strategy made your neighborhood safer? So far, 96% of those who voted say no. To make your voice heard, you can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Now, this graph shows homicide trends from January of 2020 through October of 2023. And you'll notice the first 2 summers of the Scott administration saw a spike in murders, which did drive the number of homicides over 300 each of those years. However, that didn't happen in the summer of 2023. In August of 2022, Maryland's U.S. Attorney Eric Barron announced his so-called Al Capone style of prosecution, which he says uses a range of laws to prosecute repeat violent offenders and keep them off the streets.
This Al Capone model of prosecution is designed to take violent people off the streets by any appropriate legal means necessary.
In partnership with former Governor Hogan and Mayor Brandon Scott at that time. Then 1 year ago, Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates took office. In his inaugural speech, he told the city that he would be tough on crime and had a strong message for any potential criminals.
So I say to you,
is thinking about grabbing your illegal handgun and going on the streets of Baltimore City, grab your toothbrush as well, because you're going to need it.
We saw another drop around July of 2023. It was around that time that Eric Barron and Ivan Bates announced a few big wins. In the span of just a few days, the two offices announced 8 defendants pled guilty to or were sentenced for gun crimes. All of them were repeat violent offenders. Barron said the results of their partnership is clear.
Homicides are down 25%, and non-fatal shootings are down 6.5%. And we think it's clear, and the data demonstrates that it's because we're working as a team. We're working collaboratively.
Well, Ivan Bates was not at the mayor's press conference today, but says he wants to continue working in lockstep with federal partners like U.S. Attorney Eric Barron, who we just heard from. Bates saying he's already seen the impact of that partnership.
To have individuals out there committing the crime, knowing that the U.S. Attorney's Office is there with us, has helped greatly.
Well, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues our team coverage right now. Mackenzie, you spoke with Mr. Bates today about his first year in office and what comes next. What did he say?
Yeah, Kai, the city state's attorney Ivan Bates says he thinks that it has been a challenging year, but he feels like the office is moving in the right direction. And part of that, he says, is because of the partnership that he continues to have and build with federal agencies.
Office of State's Attorney of Baltimore City.
1 year after walking into his new office for the first time, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says being the top prosecutor in Baltimore is challenging.
Job isn't really what I thought it was going to be per se. The politics, to be honest, you know, I'm a lawyer, I'm a trial lawyer. I was hoping I could be in court a lot more or just sitting watching and everything.
Politics aside, Baltimore ended 2023 with fewer than 300 homicides for the first time in 9 years. Who gets the credit for that?
I think everybody worked very hard to make that happen. 300 plus is an absurd number. And to say we're at 250 some is still pretty bad if you ask me.
But Bates is quick to point to his partnership with federal agencies like the ATF and the U.S. Attorney from Maryland, Eric Barron, who is someone Bates says he's known for decades.
What we've been able to do is take our offices and say, hey, let's work together.
And in 2024, Bates says he wants that partnership to continue and grow, specifically surrounding ways to bring more gun cases forward with the goal of getting illegal guns off the streets of Baltimore.
A lot of the things that they're working on, if, you know, the individuals they may not all be federal, then we're here to take them on the state side.
Thursday, Bates will be standing with those same federal partners to announce 2024 crime-fighting strategies. Why is it so important to stand in lockstep with the federal partners to make this announcement?
Well, you know, it's important to stand with all our partners. And
the mayor's not there tomorrow.
No. I understand, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. attorneys can only invite non-elected officials unless I'm invited because I specifically fight crime in reference to with the U.S. attorney. We have to be on that team. Those are the ones that we're doing the heavy lifting with.
With the next legislative session just days from beginning, Bates is once again calling attention to how juvenile cases are handled within the Department of Juvenile Services, taking issue with the intake process and how non-attorneys are deciding when certain charges can move forward.
Almost 33% of those were individuals based on our research and analysis that says these are cases that should have gone to a juvenile magistrate, and DJS should not have been allowed to make the call. That's exactly why I've been yelling, screaming, tweak this law and just say DJS does not have a say, but yet let's give it straight to the judge automatically with certain offenses.
Bates says he's continuing building his relationship with DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, something he says is critical to ensure everyone involved in addressing juvenile crime is on the same page. With 1 year down, a legislative agenda and momentum building for curbing violence, Bates says he knows partnership will pave the way for a safer Baltimore.
As far as I'm concerned, 2023 was last year. I got to focus on what's next. I do know this. I woke up understanding there was a murder victim already this year. So we need to focus on making sure we solve that case and finding justice for that family.
Now, with the legislative session set to begin next Wednesday, we'll be sure to keep our eyes on any policy proposals that involve juvenile crime. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, this year's legislative session starts 1 week from today, as Mackenzie just mentioned, and crime is expected to be a central focus in Annapolis, especially juvenile crime. A battle is brewing over changes to the state's juvenile crime laws. Critics have argued these laws keep police from doing their jobs. And now the president of the Maryland Police Union has joined the long list of those expressing concern.
What is happening with that is it stops that juvenile from getting the services they need, because you don't know what problem they actually have if you can't talk to them. But it also stops the victims from getting justice.
Well, police are not the only ones expressing concern over the current laws. We have heard from more than a dozen top prosecutors across Maryland calling for changes to the juvenile justice system. They say the current laws allow young people to act without fear of consequences.
Well, the Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi is at the center of some of the complaints surrounding the juvenile justice system. During a town hall last month, residents spoke out about problems involving DJS and Schiraldi's performance.
I think there's a lot more accountability he needs to answer to. I think Schiraldi's got a lot of gaps in what his data presents.
When it comes to hearing from DJS specifically, what do you want to hear from the secretary about what's going on?
His resignation. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but I just don't think he gets it.
At a separate public safety town hall, Schiraldi got into a heated back and forth with an assistant state's attorney who says DJS isn't being fully transparent about its data showing how it tracks the children in its custody.
Secretary Schiraldi, I would really love to see your data.
Absolutely.
Because and this is from 22.
Yeah, and you're going to see the next one in less than a month. I'd like to see some data from you, though. I'm not really hearing too much data from your office.
Schiraldi is also facing some pushback on some of his views. He says people shouldn't be sentenced to adult prisons until they're 25. He says scientists believe their brains aren't fully developed. And on a Harvard University panel, Schiraldi said parole and probation should be eliminated, arguing the systems don't deter people from crime and don't rehabilitate offenders.
Now, if you feel your juvenile crime concerns aren't being heard, you can reach out to your lawmakers. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. Their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen.
Public safety is the top concern across the nation, including in Philadelphia, where newly sworn-in Mayor Sherelle Parker is laying out her 100-day plan to get the city back on track. That includes declaring a state of emergency.
I'm also going to declare a public safety emergency. I am fully committed to ending this sense of lawlessness and bringing order back to our city and a sense of lawfulness. In lawlessness, bring order back and a sense of lawfulness right here in our city.
Well, coming up at 5:30, Fox 45's Vincent Hill will be breaking down her hardline approach and how it compares to Mayor Scott's holistic crime policies.
Well, right now, you're taking a live look at the Inner Harbor and our weather radar. Tonight, Fox 45 is tracking our next weather maker that could bring snow to Maryland for the first time in almost 2 years.
Yeah, take a look at this. Of major East Coast cities, Baltimore has gone the longest without seeing at least an inch of snow at 715 days. Let's check back in with meteorologist Jasmine Lomax to see if we could beat that long break this weekend. Looks like it.
Yes, that stretch certainly could come to an end this weekend as we get ready for a winter storm that's going to not just impact us, but much of the region. Some areas only dealing with rain, others with snow, but as we continue tomorrow, dry, mid-40s, but the temperatures continue to fall, low 40s on Friday, and then on Saturday, that's when that weather maker arrives, leading to a rain and snow mix across the Baltimore metro. Now, here's what we are tracking, that chance for rain and snow. The impacts are mainly going to occur on Saturday. However, there's the chance for a couple of lingering snow showers on Sunday. Now, there's a lot of uncertainty on the track of the system. It hasn't even moved onto the U.S. soil yet. So we are still keeping close watch on the conditions for that system as it progresses and moves up the East Coast. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at the timing and where we could see rain versus snow in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Thank you. Well, watch us Saturday morning and into night. Wake up with us on Sunday as we are tracking this next weather maker as it moves through our area. Our team of meteorologists will be tracking the storm all weekend long, letting you know what you need to be prepared for.
And anytime severe weather hits, you can stay ahead of the storm with the Fox 45 Weather Authority app. Search WBFF in your app store.
We'll still ahead tonight, an update in that deadly Beltway crash that killed 6 construction workers last year. How long the driver, one of them, could spend behind bars as the families demand accountability.
First, a known gang member in court today for a years-long federal murder case. The latest developments right outside the courthouse.
New tonight, one of 6 members of the Black Guerrilla family named in a federal indictment that connects the gang to drugs, murder, and an attempted contracted killing appeared in court today. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell live outside the federal courthouse with more on the plea deal one of those defendants just entered into. Alexa?
Yes, Mary, and there were many emotional and tense moments here inside court as one of those 6 defendants, Wayne Prince, entered into a guilty plea related to the 2018 killing of a construction worker. We want to show you a picture of that victim, 27-year-old Brian McKemmy. In court today, Wayne Prince, a member of the Black Guerrilla family, pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy, a plea Prince's mother did not want him to enter in. She was, in fact, escorted out of the courtroom after repeatedly saying no when the judge asked Prince how he pleads. As part of this guilty plea, Prince admitted to conspiring and attempting to kill a man as part of a hit or a contracted killing. The target was the owner of the home where McKemmy and another worker just so happened to be repairing a backsliding door. McKemmy was killed. The other worker was shot in the head but survived. McKemmy's family also here in court, his mother becoming emotional at times. His father said this plea is one step closer to justice for his son.
And to hear him say guilty, we all 3 kind of just clenched our hands together and like, this is the beginning of maybe a little bit of closure. You know, Brian was 27 years old when he was killed. But to me, that's who they killed. See that little boy holding the fish? See that little boy in Ocean City? That's who they killed. They killed my baby.
You can't put words on how much somebody's missed until they're gone. And it's just too much, you know?
That was McKemmy's brother, who says he recently named his son after his late brother. Again, there are 5 other defendants mentioned in this indictment. 4 others are pending. Prince is scheduled to be sentenced March 26. Reporting live outside the federal courthouse, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Back in November, Fox 45 obtained a federal search warrant from 2010 that revealed BGF has long been tied to violence prevention efforts in Baltimore, including the Safe Streets program. According to the warrant, Todd Duncan was BGF's street leader while working as a youth counselor for the violent intervention group called Community Organized to Improve Life, or COIL. COIL was awarded funding for the second ever Safe Streets location in Southwest Baltimore. The connections don't end there, though. More recently, in 2018, Ricky Evans was convicted as a senior BGF leader. He admitted to using the McElderly Park Safe Streets site as a BGF meeting location. We pressed Mayor Scott on the program's hiring practices following the FBI's raid on the Bel Air Edison location, and this is what he had to say.
So who does make the final say in the hiring process? And given that what we're seeing happen now the second time with an FBI raid at Safe Streets sites, will anything change when it comes to that screening process for employees?
There will be changes, and we'll send you directly the information in writing how those decisions are made. Thank you.
So who makes the final say of the hiring?
Coming up at 5:30, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost will be giving us an update on the investigation surrounding the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets supervisor as new details are coming out of court.
We are getting ready for a winter storm coming this weekend, likely bringing snow to the region, rain for some other parts, but expect a busy day on Saturday. If you have plans to be out and about, you certainly will want to make sure that you're driving safely and you have the rain gear. Until then, a mostly dry pattern. Currently, we're at 43 with mostly cloudy skies over Baltimore, and around the state, temperatures in the 40s, a little more sunshine in southern Maryland, but all across the state, we are still nice and dry. Now, as we take a look around the region, to our north, a couple of snow showers. To our south, a little bit of rain. Overnight, the chance for a couple of isolated flurries, but otherwise a mostly dry and quiet night as our temperatures fall to the 30s. We start with cold weather, then by the afternoon, we stay close to average, reaching the mid-40s. We'll drop to below average numbers, though, on Friday with highs around 42, and it's followed by the weather maker on Saturday. Temperatures will reach the upper 30s and the low 40s, and because of those above freezing temperatures, we have that chance for a rain and snow mix for parts of the state. Notice on the future scan, we stay mostly cloudy overnight with that chance for an isolated flurry. But as we start after daybreak, mostly dry. The best chance for snow will be in higher elevations and for western Maryland. We'll have a mix of sunshine and clouds by the afternoon, and then we clear out overnight, waking up to plenty of sunshine on Friday morning. By the afternoon, more clouds move in as we prepare for that weather maker. We'll have a low pressure system that rides up the coast, and it'll lead to a couple of isolated flurries shortly after sunrise. But notice by the afternoon, we're tracking some areas with heavy snow and other areas with heavy rain. Now, there's still a lot of uncertainty in the track of that system, especially since it hasn't even moved over the U.S. yet. So we're still keeping track of it, but we are looking at rain primarily for areas south and also to the east of Baltimore. A better chance for snow closer to the state line and for areas west, especially for those higher elevation spots. Now, as we head into the evening and the night, temperatures will be above freezing, and we're primarily talking a transition into rain. We'll start to taper overnight. There could be a few leftover snow flurries for areas north and also to the west. Otherwise, we stay mostly dry on Sunday, and we're looking at a much quieter day on Monday. We do have our next chance for rain coming on Tuesday, followed by a few spotty showers on Wednesday. So prepared for an unsettled pattern this weekend into early next week. 35 for the low temperature. That's followed by 46 for the high tomorrow. After that, cooler temperatures, 42 on Friday. Make sure to stay weather alert as we prepare for this winter weather maker on Saturday and Sunday. We'll start to warm up after that with rain on Tuesday and Wednesday. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Still ahead tonight, the Baltimore County Council votes on a new chairperson. The controversy surrounding previous chair Julian Jones. The Ravens are busy gearing up for their postseason run, and the Ravens flock getting ready to cheer them on. How our viewers are showing off their purple pride.
Week 18 is meaningless for the Ravens. They are locked in as AFC North champs and the AFC's top seed for the playoffs, guaranteed a bye, and they will host the divisional round in January, either the 20th or 21st. So the key question is, what do you do in a game that doesn't matter? Do you play your starters? Do you rest them? John Harbaugh doesn't have a lot of flexibility with that due to injuries, but he's made one decision. His quarterback, Lamar Jackson, will not face the Steelers.
I just think you just kind of consider all things. There's really not any one thing that goes into it. Just all things considered, it seemed to be the right thing to do. And you have conversations with Lamar and others and make the decision.
Yeah, I'm cool with it. Me and Coach talked about it. I felt like it was best suitable to, sit me and stuff like that.
Jackson will most likely be the only healthy starter not to dress. The rest of the decisions by Harbaugh and company are really going to have to be based on injuries. The Ravens had 7 players not practice today. 5 of those are starters, so they may be getting a 2-week bye as well. As far as starting quarterback against the Steelers, that's going to be Tyler Huntley. Reporting in Owings Mills, I'm Morgan Adsit for Sports Unlimited.
Well, taking a live look at M&T Bank Stadium, where, as Morgan mentioned, the Ravens facing off against the Steelers this Saturday at 4:30. And while the Ravens gear up for that game, but mainly gearing up for the playoffs, let's see how our Fox 45 viewers are showing off their purple pride. This is little Danny. Just look at her. She's getting ready to be the next Ravens cheerleader. Her mom, Jasmine, says every day after school, Danny rushes home to put on her Ravens cheer uniform just so she can practice her moves in style. Oh my goodness, she's adorable. There you go. That is the move. Fantastic. And Flip sending us this photo of his very, very, very purple house. If you look close enough, there is a Raven Santa, some Raven skeletons, and of course, no home complete without a Ravens flag and banner. That is so cool. I love it post-holiday season too. And if you are heading to M&T Bank Stadium this weekend or gearing up for the playoffs in a big way, we want to see it. Scan that QR code right there on your screen. It'll take you to foxbaltimore.com, where you can upload your pictures and your videos. It is all powered by Stackline. Well, still ahead, it's been almost 3 months since the FBI raided the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location. An update on the investigation as we're learning some new details from court. And Philadelphia's new mayor making headlines for her tough on crime approach. A look at her plan and how it compares to Mayor Scott's. It has been nearly 3 months since the FBI raided a Safe Streets location, and today one of the site's workers was back in court facing ammunition charges.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live with why the case is dismissed. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, David Caldwell. He was the site supervisor of the Bel-Air Edison Safe Streets location, and federal agents showed up at his home the same day. Federal agents executed search warrants at the Bel-Air Edison Safe Streets location back in October. Well, today the trial was set to begin and move forward, but instead the city state's attorney's office dropped the illegal ammunition charge against Caldwell. That's stemming from the federal search warrant that still is sealed. When we were back in court in November, when this case was scheduled to move forward, the prosecutor on the case indicated that the federal prosecutors or federal investigators said that the search warrant would be unsealed sometime in January. It looks like that has not happened yet, and without the federal search warrant, this case couldn't move forward. Earlier today, I asked City State's Attorney Ivan Bates about it. He tells me that this is still an ongoing investigation, so he declined to comment any further. As for the federal investigation into Safe Streets or Caldwell or both, we still don't have very many details.
Mackenzie, is Mr. Caldwell still working for Safe Streets?
That's a question that I asked LifeBridge Health, which is the nonprofit running this Safe Streets location. Back when the charges were first filed, LifeBridge said that Caldwell was placed on an unpaid leave while the case played out. Right now, they tell me they are still assessing his employment status, and the Bel-Air Edison Safe Streets location still remains inactive, and it's unclear when that will reopen. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you for our full coverage on the Safe Streets investigation and our years-long effort to learn more about the program. Head to foxbaltimore.com.
We have an update tonight in the deadly Beltway crash that killed 6 highway workers last year. One of the drivers, Malachi Brown, has pled guilty to 6 counts of automobile manslaughter.
Well, take a look on the left side of your screen, a highway camera capturing the crash. In the left lane, you can see how a black sedan and a silver car collide. We stopped the footage just before that black car flips over the median, killing the 6 workers in the middle of the road.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson has more on the plea and the other driver also facing charges for that crash. Amy?
Yeah, so Kai, Brown, one of 2 drivers charged for their involvement in this tragic crash that happened last spring. Prosecutors said that Brown was driving 122 miles per hour on the Beltway last spring. Now today, according to the Baltimore County State's Attorney, Brown pleaded guilty to 6 counts of manslaughter. The state's attorney's office says it's recommending 10 years for each of Brown's 6 counts of manslaughter, totaling a possible 60 years. But prosecutors also say they're recommending most of that possible jail time be suspended, proposing that Brown spend just 18 months behind bars, no driving during 3 years of supervised probation, and 40 hours of community service. It will ultimately be up to a judge to decide at sentencing, which is scheduled for the end of March. And among those 6 people killed in that work zone crash last March was Sybil DiMaggio, a wife and mother of 2. And today, attorneys for DiMaggio's family tell me they're looking for more answers, accountability, and closure.
Is literally the only person in this entire tragedy who has accepted any level of responsibility for the death of 6 innocent people at this point. There are corporations and companies and individuals who are stepping back and not accepting responsibility.
I wish I could say that this brought some level of peace to her family, but I think it's just the beginning in terms of accepting responsibility for what happened.
Meanwhile, the second driver facing charges for their involvement in this tragedy is 55-year-old Lisa Lee. She faces 28 counts following that tragedy last year, including an accusation that she was under the influence at the time of that crash. She faces trial starting in April. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Well, another update tonight. The Baltimore County Council has replaced Julian Jones as the council chair. At a council hearing last night, members picked Izzy Patoka as the new chair. That vote was unanimous among the 6 members present and happens the first meeting of each year to pick the chairperson for that calendar year. Now, the change comes less than a month after Jones withdrew a string of amendments that ultimately would have weakened the office of the Inspector General. Jones, who has twice been cited in investigations by the IG, claimed his amendments were a response to concerns from county residents. After dismissing them, the County Council voted to unanimously place the Inspector General's office into the county charter.
I want the world to know that I am fully committed to ending this sense of lawlessness and bringing order back to our city.
Philadelphia's new mayor, Sherelle Parker, promises she's taking a tough-on-crime approach to make her city, Philadelphia, a safer place.
It comes as Mayor Brandon Scott in Baltimore released his own plan to reduce homicides and violent crime in the city.
Fox 45's Vincent Hill has more on Mayor Parker's plan and a look at the differences in Mayor Scott's and Parker's approaches to fighting the crime crisis in their own cities.
Yeah, Mayor Parker made history becoming the first female mayor of Philadelphia. Now the 100th mayor has a 100-day plan to tackle crime. Last year, Philadelphia saw 409 homicides, and even though it was a 20% drop, it was still the fourth straight year of 400 or more homicides. And the city also ended the year with over 3,000 non-fatal shootings and saw a 72% increase in auto thefts. Mayor Parker says her plan involves putting more cops on the street, going after quality of life crimes like open-air drug markets and dirt bikes, and making a very strong and sound declaration.
I'm also going to declare a public safety emergency. Yes, I am. But I want you to know everybody is not going to be happy when we make some of these decisions. We're going to make our city safe for the people who live here, who work here, and who come into our city from the suburbs and from across the country and from across the world.
Mayor Parker went on to say that she's fully committed to ending lawlessness in her city and restoring lawfulness. And coming up tonight at 10, I'll have more on what former Mayor Sheila Dixon says about the state of emergency in Philadelphia and if it's needed here in Baltimore. At City Hall, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. The Philadelphia mayor's tough-on-crime approach comes just months after Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser declared a public emergency on juvenile crime. At the time, Fox 45 News pressed Mayor Scott and some of his 2024 mayoral challengers on whether a similar strategy could be implemented here in Baltimore.
Let's remember, everybody, that D.C. is a city that's governed differently than ours and any other city in the country. Essentially, D.C. is a city and a state at the same time. They control a whole manner of juvenile systems that we don't, because we have the fabulous state of Maryland, like juvenile service, like social service, like CPS. All of those things are not under the preview of the mayor.
It's gotten out of control, and